Hey everybody, welcome to Paranormal News Live. It's the premiere of the new Paranormal Live news show that will hopefully be premiering on Tuesdays every week. This is the sneak preview, and in 2017, this should become a regular show. We have some really interesting headlines today and a very special guest. Today we'll be covering a headline from The Sun that paranormal investigators claim NASA have found the foundation of an ancient wall city on Mars. Next, we'll be talking about the Roswell, basically the Britain's version of Roswell, and how military personnel has ended his 36-year silence on classified information. And finally, under Bigfoot news, out in California, people have been signing a petition to say that Bigfoot is in fact an endangered species. So these are some of the stories we'll be going on over tonight. For those who don't know me, my name is Alejandro Dominguez. I am the paranormal investigator and filmmaker known as the Dead Explorer. This is my channel. This is where I do shows like this and ghost hunting videos. So I've been doing this for 6 years, and this is a sneak preview of this brand new show. Now, without much further ado, I want to introduce our next guest, and then we'll bring him on to say hi. The guest tonight is somebody I actually met in California at the Grey Ghost Paracon, I think about 3 or 4 years ago. He is a very busy gentleman. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring him on tonight. Will Emmerich is the founder and bishop of the Southern Church of Rock and Roll, host of the Emmerich Show on rockradioandmore.com, comic book fan, soccer, taco, coffee, and bacon addict, my type of guy, published author of the book Souls of Norcross, and a paranormal researcher for 15 plus years. Will has investigated many haunted locations around the world in both private and public investigations. I think he is the perfect first guest for Paranormal News Live. And without much further ado, Mr. Will Emmerich, how are you doing, sir?
Awesome. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great, man. It's great to have you on the first episode of Paranormal News Live. For those who, I know I just went over your intro, but for those who don't know you, can you share just a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do?
I am the host of the Emmerich Show, named after me, on Rock Radio and More, and here out of Atlanta, Georgia. I am also a paranormal investigator. I'm one of the first people to ever get to investigate a whole town on my own, which was Norcross, Georgia, which is also the city that the book I wrote, Souls of Norcross, which I wrote with Sally Toole, my co-author, and one of my friends who actually helped me do a lot of the investigation and the research for that city. I also ran a paranormal group for a long time called Dark Side Syndicate out of Atlanta, Georgia. The team still exists, but we're not really a group anymore. We're individuals, and we work with one another because some of them are in Vegas, a couple other are in Los Angeles now, and then I'm here in Atlanta by myself. So it's hard for us to work together.
Sure, I mean,
but yeah, we've done a lot of cases together, which they spanned a whole range of topics, from poltergeist activity, possessions, to just also looking for a ghost in a public location like a restaurant or something, just so they can promote it more and try to get more business. So it's a lot of fun.
Nice. So, I mean, that's an amazing background. I've been, investigating for 5-6 years, real seriously, but nowhere near the amount of time that you've been doing it. And some of the stuff you described to me, it's real motivational for, especially just the kind of different cases you've done. And it's I know for myself, I understand what happens from time to time. You investigate with some people on and off, and then for whatever reason, you don't, and then you do. So it's kind of funny how I can just, you can be investigating with the same group of people, and then for whatever reason it just falls apart. But it sounds like you've kept busy. You keep doing your thing. I was a guest on your show. I had a lot of fun. I think for those who might not realize, your show is actually in Spanish, right? Now you helped me. You did an English show when I went on.
Well, the show has since went bilingual.
Okay.
There's a lot. I do the show now with Christina Kiefer, and it's mostly in English now.
Okay.
Since most of my listeners express that they speak English even more, the Spanish one even more than Spanish. But
Okay.
I still go into Spanish, and I also do a lot of Spanish rock on the show as well, and it's pretty cool. A lot of my listeners are from right now are from Texas, New Mexico, and actually Mexico, which is kind of cool.
No, that's awesome. That's a great area. I mean, obviously, that's home base for me in more ways than one. And I think I was listening to some of it on your website, and the link to your website is in the description box below. It's basically your name .com.
Yeah.
And I think I might have heard something in Spanish, but I did know that Christina's your new co-host, and I hope to one day maybe talk to her. So before we get into today's stories, I'm really curious, what got you into radio to begin with? I mean, I know you as a paranormal investigator. Like I said, we met the USS Hornet, one of the most haunted ships in the Navy. So I know you get around because you're from Atlanta, and I met you in Alameda, California.
Oh, I just lost my. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I still got you, bud. So what got you into radio?
Think I lost something.
Well, I still got you. Can you hear me?
Okay, I think I lost you. Hold on 1 second.
All right, folks. So bear with us. We're having some technical issues. This is actually the first time we've tried to do a live show with Skype. As some of you have been watching on Fridays, I've been doing a show on Fridays called Flashback Live, where we've been looking at old Dead Explorer videos. And the reason I've been doing these live shows on Tuesdays and Fridays is that it gives me time to basically set up the next investigation, go out and film it, travel wherever I need to go film it, and either set up a live investigation where people can watch the investigation live on air, just like you're watching right now, or go out, film the investigation, come back, spend hours reviewing evidence, spend hours editing and putting out the best episode on YouTube. So this is a way to kind of keep the conversation going. I'm a big paranormal fan. Some of the stories we're going to be talking about with tonight with Will are stories I handpicked because they're right up the alley of what I find interesting. I'm hoping you will find interesting as well. Will, can you hear me okay?
All right, I'm back.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm back now.
Okay,
Sorry.
we didn't really lose you, but I guess you might have lost us. So that's okay. So Will, what I was basically going to, I don't know where we dropped off, but like I was saying that I know you're a paranormal investigator. I even met you on the USS Hornet, which is, one of the most haunted ships in the Navy. You're from Atlanta. I met you in California, so that only goes to show how far you go. But I'm really curious.
Oh yeah.
What got you into radio? Where did that passion, strike up?
That's actually my first love, radio. And it's kind of funny. A friend of mine who's in Atlanta, a DJ as well, a radio personality, Steve Craig, posted a picture of Dr. Johnny Fever from WKRP today. And when I was a little kid, I watched that show religiously. It made me love radio. And what I found out was Dr. Johnny Fever was based off a DJ here in Atlanta who died in 2003, skinny. There was a love of radio that came from that show, but also came from one of the first little science projects I ever did with my uncle was build a crystal radio set when I was a little kid. And the whole idea of sound traveling through waves that we can't see, hint, hint, ghosts, get translated into something that we hear anywhere 24/7 in your car, in your house, and now with the internet, on the net, and you can hear it anywhere in the world. And like my show is broadcast worldwide. So as long as you can get our app or a TuneIn app, You can hear it in Russia, Antarctica, wherever there's internet signal. And that to me, that's kind of magical because, like what we're doing right now with video medium, we can see who you are and who I am. But with radio, you use your imagination. And that was something that I loved. And from being a little kid out and hearing that, watching that TV show, and then hearing shows like just Weird Al's old radio show that used to play at late night and other things like that, I just got in love with radio. And then when I got the opportunity to, as I was older, I just started doing it. I met people in the field. I had my own radio show with another friend of mine called it was just called The Show. That's how original we are.
It's very
and it was like a shock jock show, and we did that. And then as I started getting more into the paranormal field personally, I started adapting that into my radio shows. And now I got this show, which is just named after me, the I'm Marie Show.
Another original.
And again, originality. Yeah, originality is best. But it's just my love. Radio is actually my first big passion. Then came photography. Another thing that you and I shared that we got into, which was video and photography, and then the paranormal. Those are the three in the order. Then immediately after that, tacos and bacon, but and coffee. But coffee's what fuels all.
My priority too. Yeah, right. That is the fuel. There's none of the other stuff without the coffee.
See right behind me, my proud sponsors.
Nice.
Death Wish Coffee.
Hey, get the plug in, man.
Death Wish.
Nice. There you go. That's the way to do it, man. That's the way to do it. Well, you are a man of various interests, so I'm kind of curious to see how you're going to feel about some of these stories today, because, you and I have known each other as ghost hunters, and just diving into one of the first stories from today. This is a topic that I believe I found myself. I've seen many of these videos on YouTube. Doesn't mean I necessarily believe these videos are true, but one of the stories on The Sun, which is a major publication, was that paranormal investigators claim that NASA has found foundations of an ancient walled city on Mars. And so there's actually a link in the description box below if people want to take a look at the pictures or the YouTube video. But basically, in short, it's saying that an orbiter, the orbiter, the NASA's Mars reconnaissance orbiter, which was launched in 2005, in attempts to find water on the surface of Mars, seems to have found what looks like eroded domes, circular rings, and basically the signs of some kind of structure made by an intelligent species. And just looking at the video, I know that people who are going to be listening to this as a podcast, and by the way, I should mention in the beginning that this will be a podcast available for download. There are people who get to watch it live on YouTube and join in the chat room. Thanks to everybody in the chat room. We'll answer questions and comments from the chat room shortly. But for those who are listening to this via podcast form, there will be links to these videos so you can watch them on your own. Now, Will, so what's your take on the whole ancient civilizations on Moon, Mars? Do you buy those stories? Do you think there's anything to it? And I guess it's a two-part question. There's that, but then if you need to just kind of big picture, just like what's your take on the whole, alien UFO thing? You think we got company out there, or are we just dealing with the stuff we got here on Earth?
I don't know. I'm seeing this catch of the day, the erotic carp calendar you never knew you needed is here for Christmas. and it's got women with their boobies. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. It's a hard answer for me. I do believe that there's life on other planets, and I do, with a lot more of the information that we're getting from Mars, I do believe at one time Mars had biological life. Maybe not like us, not like mammals, but something in the seas or in its waters. and they say there is still water on there. It's frozen.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, that's cool.
Right. That's really
But
interesting.
this, like the picture that they have on here and all that for this one on Mars, to me it looks like crater, like eroded crater holes. And people's like, well, those are definitely mountains and all that stuff. But if you look at that big crater that we have out in the western part of the United States, I keep forgetting the name of it. That middle part would actually become a dome later because it's going to be the slowest to erode. Everything around it will start to erode first. And in the end, it'll have like a dome shape in the middle. And that's what this looks like to me in these pictures. To me, it looks like craters. It doesn't look like a walled fortress.
Yeah.
But now going back to the moon, there's some things in their photographs that just like a bridge. How did that happen naturally in an area that has no wind?
Right.
Stuff like that on like the pictures they show about the moon, that really does intrigue me because some of the things that they show in those photographs, and there's a video on YouTube, and I can't remember the name of it, which shows these pictures and it has a narration and explains when NASA got these images and what they thought about it and what other scientists are thinking about it too, looking at them. They're unanswered. I mean, there looks like I forgot obelisk, like the Washington Monument.
Sure.
There's a picture of it, of what looks like one on the moon toppled over. And then you have this image of what looks like a land bridge. Now there is proof that a meteorite hitting the moon can cause this naturally, but the chances of it happen are extremely hard, or extremely rare.
Right.
So that it intrigues me. It intrigues me a lot. But the stuff that they're talking about Mars right now, it hasn't piqued my interest. It doesn't mean that it's not possible, or there at one point there could have been intelligent life, humans, mammals there. But what they're showing, Old Fortress, no, I don't think so.
Not buying it.
Now the one, that one that they came out earlier with that looked like a skeleton, that one I didn't buy either. Because I was like, this image is too pixelated, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, well, granted, this one's a lot clearer, but the other thing about it is the size.
Right.
And a lot of things, like on the video they were talking about it, the size is much bigger than what they're making out when you get down there. I mean, these cones could probably be the size of mountains for us when you get down to ground level.
Right.
And so that really wouldn't have been a structure for, like that. It looks very organic. It doesn't look like it was a structure.
Right. No, for sure.
I mean, granted, doesn't mean that engineers can't make something that looks organic, but usually they don't want to. So.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think you
And it's also.
No, I was gonna say I think you hit on
also-
a lot of fascinating points. I mean, I think the part that I know as I myself as an investigator, I always try to bring science and a certain bit of skepticism or logical explanations to anything that I'm reviewing. And I mean, obviously, with the fact that in the last few years we found out that there definitely is water on Mars, and water is one of the basic elements for life. That's an amazing news. So scientifically, is it possible that life at one point existed on Mars? Sure, it's possible. There's the part of the imagination that has a lot of fun with the ideas that somehow they were connected to, ancient Egyptians, and there might be pyramids on Mars, or there might be pyramids on the moon. I think the reason why I personally kind of like those things is more of a, from a fantasy point of view of having fun with that. Although I do find some of the ancient astronaut stuff interesting as well. I mean, who's to say that we haven't lost any records of visitors in the past? I mean, who's to say that is or isn't possible?
I do believe in the ancient astronaut theory, which people who know me personally kind of look at me funny when I say that, because they're like, aren't you Christian and stuff and a minister? I was like, yeah, but that doesn't mean that we didn't come from somewhere else. I mean, if you even take it biblically, we've came from somewhere else. But heaven seems, is another place,
Right.
and it is in outer space because it ain't on Earth, so it's out there,
Right.
which makes us technically extraterrestrials. But
Hmm.
I do believe in the ancient astronaut theory, and look at us, we're looking at going to Mars to possibly at one time colonize it. So, which means this. Well, what happens millions years in the future? Will those people remember that they came from Earth, this dead planet next to them?
Right.
What's to say we didn't come from there, or that we didn't come from Venus? I mean, in time we forget stuff, and I think that's very much possible. The ancient astronaut theory to me is something that is very plausible, and I actually believe it happened. And there's a lot of proof. Now, granted, the show Ancient Aliens goes into a lot of these fantasy theories. I mean, granted, they have to do something to keep the show running for 10 seasons. But, and Sokolos sometimes will even admit that some of these things that he's talking about is very outlandish. But it's all part of it. I mean, you have to think outside of the box to find where you fit in the box at some point. So it's you're going to bring, everyone's going to bring things up like this Mars thing, and it's great to study and it's great to understand it, but when you put the picture together, does it actually fit? And for me, this don't fit. But the ancient astronaut theory, a lot of especially when you look at von Doniget's original early writings, there's a lot of plausibility in what he puts in that theory. Later on, he brings in more theory, some of it that he even says he doesn't totally buy into, but it needs to be studied. And I'm all game for that. But sometimes these people, like life on the moon, how possible is that really?
Right.
I mean, when you have no atmosphere, organic matter like us should not be able. Does that mean there's possibly an other type of matter that exists there? That needs to be studied. I don't know if anyone's ever studied that there can possibly be life in that type of environment. But life as we know it right now, or life as the common person knows it can't live there. But then you go to Mars. That has an atmosphere not too different from us. It's more eroded, it's thinner, its gravity is lighter. So things are going to be changing, but I sometimes wonder, I know the scientists think about that, but I don't know about if the common person really puts all those pieces together and realize it's not possible in that manner.
Right.
And then, of course, Jupiter. People's like, there's no way things can live in the gaseous planet. Really? Why not? It's just not how we know it. But it's organic matter. Technically speaking, the gases are a living entity
Right.
on that planet because gas is a living organism. So technically there is something living there. It's just not how we know it. It's not physical matter as we know it. And that's the things that I think a lot of people need to start really looking into more, especially when they're building these theories.
Right. No, I'm a
But
big
that's
fan
just
of the
my 10
ancient
cents.
astronaut. No, I love it. I mean, I read Chariots of the God myself, and obviously a fan of the show and the hair of Giorgio. But you bring up an excellent point. If there is, I mean, the thing that baffles me is that, or that kind of makes me wonder is, usually when you look at science fiction, a lot of the stuff from science fiction comes true, especially in our lifetime. Tablets, cell phones, microwaves, even, virtual reality. I've been shooting 360-degree videos, and it doesn't seem to be a fad. It seems to be that people will be wearing goggles and headsets and going to interactive worlds as a form of entertainment really, really soon. And I think that, things like people living on Mars is also, I don't know if it's going to happen in our lifetime, but it seems like we're on that trajectory. And these stories about maybe how mankind leaves Earth for another planet, because sometimes it's the end of the world. I mean, sometimes it seems like these things are very possible now, so it kind of blows my mind. And the moon has some fun stuff with the whole conspiracy theory that Nazis lived on the dark side of the moon, or there's an alien base on the dark side of the moon. I think those are some fun things to go with. And so, kind of segueing to the next story. Obviously, there's people who really believe that uh, aliens still visit Earth even now. That they still, abduct people. That somehow the government is, knows about aliens and they're keeping it a secret from the mass public. So there's no mass hysteria, or maybe that, if you want to get really down the rabbit hole, that aliens rule our planet, as shape, as shapeshifters or something of that nature. But I mean, not to get too off the end, again, another story from the Sun, and this one came out on December 7th. Is the story about how basically in Britain, for those in the United States, we know we have Roswell, New Mexico, where supposedly a UFO crashed in the 1950s. Well, in Britain, they have a Roswell as well in their version of it, Rendlesham Forest near Suffolk. I hope I said that right. I know some of those pronunciations, especially when I watch English soccer, are a little bit different than how they look like they're spelled. But basically, an Air Force police officer said that in December 26th, December 28th, 1980, on three separate nights, military personnel saw UFOs flying over the base. And so he's now breaking his 36 years silence on the case. So again, the link is in the description box below for those who are watching on YouTube. It's very interesting just to hear somebody that comes from a military background. It seems like usually when you get somebody from a military background, an Air Force pilot who knows planes very well, that comes out and shares this kind of information, it kind of adds some more credibility to the witness, instead of somebody who might be doing it for fame or fortune. This seems to be just like somebody who wants to share the story, but who's to say it's not for fame or fortune either. So Will, just kind of briefly touching on that. I mean, what are your thoughts? So we talked about ancient aliens. Do you think that aliens still visit Earth today? Do you think that's possible? Or what do you make of like stories like the Roswell crash, or that people think that aliens live amongst us and we don't even know?
Roswell is an interesting thing with me. It's something I've investigated, but not fully on the side. My friend Bruce, who's been on my show with me, when he lived out in Las Vegas, did a lot of research with it. And both he and I have talked to Stanton Friedman and Pope. I don't know why his first name's not coming to me, but he was the guy in charge of all the papers for investigating UFOs in England, and he was in charge of it with the government. And oh man, I know Bruce is listening. He's gonna text me and be, how can you forget his name? But we spoke with him before, and I do believe, without a doubt, that aliens still visit us. I believe they have visited us. Nick Pope.
There you go.
Is his name.
Good save.
He ran the British government's UFO project, and he's one of the leading authorities on this. And him and Stanton Friedman, and I actually talked with Mr. Pope about Rendlesham, and I 100% without a doubt believe that was an actual UFO from outer space that was there.
You've had a conversation about this very specific topic then.
Yes, and he doesn't. When I spoke with him, I don't know if he can now, but when I spoke with him, he wouldn't be 100%. He was still more in the middle in how he talked about it. I don't know exactly what his beliefs was, but Stanton Friedman, on the other hand, believes it was a real UFO too. And the main reason is that the evidence leads to it. It's not, the evidence about this case is not entirely vague, where our Roswell is actually a lot more vague than Rendlesham. The only thing about Rendlesham is that because it was a RAF and a U.S. military base shared area, that a lot of the stuff was top secret for a very long time, which made a lot of people believe that this was a military test project or something like that. But the sightings of UFOs and Well, to rewind, and for a lot of people watching, listening who don't know, UFO does not necessarily mean it's alien. So when these people are reporting UFOs, it doesn't mean that they're saying that this was something that came from outer space. They're just saying that this is something that's unknown,
Right.
unidentified. But before the Rendlesham case in the forest, before the forest information came, there was lots of sightings of UFOs in the area. And then all of a sudden, the incident in the forest happened. The guy, one of the people who actually touched the craft, has actually kept a diary which has nothing but literally digital code information. And it's so big that the people don't know what a lot of the people who even know that code do not know what the heck that this information is, but they've plotted it out some. And it's just very strange because that also happened in an era where most people did not even know that type of language. They didn't know, it wasn't common for people to know binary code. Where now it's a little bit more common.
Like O's and ones type binary code?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And, that this is the early 80s, and people who knew that were very specific in their knowledge. The people who knew binary code were very few and far between, and they lived it pretty much because it wasn't something that everyone had to do. I mean, even back then, for people now, it's very common because, I mean, heck, our kids make websites with HTML coming out of second and third grade. And back then, that's just that wasn't common.
Sure.
And so I do, just little bits of information like that. I believe Rendlesham was an alien craft. The only thing that always threw me off, though, I will throw this out there to everybody, is how similar, when you start hearing and reading about that case, how similar the sighting is to the sighting of the UFO in the movie E.T. That always found humorous, and that was only when I first heard about this case, was the only reason that it originally threw me off, because I was sitting there going, this sounds so much like when they first spot the UFO in the beginning of E.T. And I was like, did they copy that? But then I realized that E.T. was made after that. So
yeah,
it's more E.T. probably copied it.
No, for sure. Yeah, no.
But Rendlesham for me is an alien sighting. And I'm seeing more and more people come out about it on, not just in articles and stuff, but they've been coming about and talking on TV shows about UFOs. And these are new people who were there. It wasn't like the original people who started talking about it. And it wasn't just Nick Pope. And the funny thing is a lot of them are bringing more. They're not just validating what Nick Pope said. They're bringing in new information that fits. And then when Nick Pope goes back to the records, because Britain released all their archives on UFOs. When he goes back to them, he realizes that their information is actually in there. So that's what I find interesting about Rendlesham.
I think it's really interesting, the whole topic. And it kind of raises the question, why, if this does happen and if government entities know about it, why do you think they are not sharing that with the public? Are they scared of mass hysteria, or that somehow I think somehow they might think they might lose their power, like somehow they seem less powerful as a government entity, just to know that we're not the only people on Earth? I mean, why do you think people keep that as a secret?
I think back in the day it was the whole panic thing.
Right.
Back then I think a lot of people were not used to stuff like this. I mean, even in a level of just being exposed to it in a fantasy type way, in a fiction type way. Then I think later on the government was like, well, we kept this stuff so secret that it's going to make people just exactly how we are. We double think too much about what our government does, and that we doubt them from the beginning.
Right.
And it leaves a level of distrust to the people. So I think they're just not wanting to put a bigger scar in people's thought of them and their faith with the government. Because let's face it, it's like religion. Government's like religion. It's a faith. We don't know what they're going to do, and so anything that we put into them is just faith.
You know, there's part of me that wonders if Donald Trump's already heard from Obama, been given the top secret UFO stuff. I wonder.
I always made a joke. Did you see that picture when they first met each other and the look on Trump's face?
Yeah.
And when I posted that on my my Facebook pro page one time, I was like, okay, someone just told him about the aliens.
Right? He did look shook, man. He looked real shook.
And he's like, someone told him something he didn't want to know.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's like, it also reminds me of like the old Dave Chappelle show where they did a skit where he was spoofing Deep Impact, and just as when he was going to escape to outer space, he lets it all out. It's like, Martians are real. It's just, I think it's just this pop culture and conspiracy thing where we think that our government knows, and for whatever reason, they don't want to tell us. Switching gears though again, you know, this there is a little bit of a political slant on the next story, and it basically boils down to that our friends in California are, and not all of them, but a group of Californians are signing a petition to add Bigfoot to an endangered species list. And if you go and watch this video on the link to this website, it seems kind of like tongue-in-cheek, but the website that's posting this story is also very critical because they're making it out to seem like, oh, liberals are out there trying to, you know, protect every animal on the planet, or it must be a publicity stunt. But then I was actually following up on this, and it believes that in Washington State it's actually illegal to kill a Sasquatch. So I guess there is some legal precedent to protecting these animals. I've been on a friend's show, Jeff Kelly, who hopefully I'll bring in the future. He does a great Bigfoot only podcast, and he told me a story that was really super interesting. And again, if I believe in ghosts and that's possible, who's to say that there's no, you know, animal out there that we just don't have a really good record? Although on the flip side, with the technology, with the satellites we got, where we can see stuff to a detail, why has anybody not found the kind of evidence that people accept to be true? And maybe the evidence is out there. It's just so many people are skeptical, they haven't accepted it when they've seen it. On your end, well, I'm really curious to see, are you a cryptid fan as well? You're into ancient astronaut theory. You do obviously you're a paranormal investigator. How do you feel about cryptids, and do you have a favorite one?
Okay, a lot of people who've listened to my show and known me throughout the years know that I had a theory that I'm still mad that Ghostbusters used as a spoof, and that is in that scene when they're in their original studio, and this is the new Ghostbusters, and they're making fun of the TV shows. You hear them say, "Ghosts of Bigfoot found." Okay, I've always thought Bigfoot was a ghost, and I know people were always like, "Huh?" And now it's validated. Now there's a lot of investigators going and taking this and running with it. I mean, there was an article that came out on the 8th on Week in Weird where it says, Bigfoot is a ghost, interdimensional Sasquatch, the green flash, and why we'll never find a body. And every time Bigfoot has been filmed, be it fake or legit, they've always seemed to follow a pattern. Because the fake ones are trying to make it look real, they follow this pattern. But if you noticed, you can have the forest completely in focus, but Bigfoot's not. Now, isn't that just like our full body apparition videos? We'll get the video and everything's completely in focus, but the spirit, and the camera's always trying to focus on the spirit. Seems to be that's always the case with Bigfoot. Now, there's some people saying that Bigfoot is an interdimensional being. In other words, it could be like a caveman, and that we're witnessing a split or a rift or a slice in the space-time continuum in the dimensions,
Sure, and people
and
even
that
say that about ghosts.
yeah, and that it's seeing us, and we're like a ghost to it, and it's like a ghost to us,
Right.
and that what we're seeing is a caveman, that it's not necessarily like an ape or an actual animal. It's us, the human beings, when we were first learning to stand upright and stuff. Possible. It's possible. But I've always thought that we were witnessing the ghost of a caveman. That, that we're seeing an actual spirit, that we're not seeing some weird. Now, no, my flipped hat doesn't mean no. I'm in business.
You
It's
saw
I couldn't
that,
see the
right?
screen.
We got some jokers.
But
Y'all got jokes in the chat room, don't y'all? Hey, Will.
but
Just real quick, let me just say this. So I am in a new office. I moved out of my house to do this show and a bunch of my other video production. It's my first time doing this live Tuesday show, and I'm finding out that I guess this is the night the cleaning crew comes through the building. I had no idea. So I'm going to let you keep talking. I'm just going to step out this door and tell them not to come in here because I have a really thinking suspicion that they're about to do that, and I don't want that to be in the middle of your chat. So keep going. I'll turn off my
come on, man.
microphone, and I'm just going to tell
dust
them.
behind you, man.
Huh? They're going to walk in and be
I
shocked.
said,
Like,
let
what's
them
going
clean the
on
dust
in here?
behind you, man.
It could have been worse. They could have
No,
walked
but
into a Ouija board or something.
Well, that'd been funnier.
I think that would really scare them. So excuse me one second. I'm gonna go tell them. All right. You keep going, bud, because you were talking.
All right, man.
But
To me,
yeah, I'll be right back.
yeah, to me, Bigfoot is a spirit. We're seeing the ghost in time. I mean, when doing ghosts and paranormal investigation, the biggest issue I've always found is that no one ever seems to find anything past the Civil War era of time. I mean, we don't get any. Very few people have gone to the pyramids and caught ghosts of ancient Egyptians, or even in Mexico and caught any Aztec ghosts or anything like that. So to me, it's become a big issue that, if we can't see that, but they should exist, is it because we don't recognize what we're seeing? And that could be the case with Bigfoot. We are not recognizing the creature or the being for what it is, and that being primitive man going back in time, and that we're witnessing a ghost. We're not witnessing a cryptid. But again, I can be wrong, but no one has found Bigfoot bones, and that's my biggest point of evidence on that.
Right.
No one is. Every time someone says they found a Bigfoot bone and they do a test on it, the end is they find out it's a human. And it was a large human, and then like the last ones they found ended up being a murder victim. So, that to me is that, and right now, to me, in my head, in my mind, and in my studies, Bigfoot is a ghost, but it doesn't mean I'm right. I mean, it's just a theory.
That's awesome.
And yeah, he's my favorite cryptid, but I want to see him riding a Loch Ness monster one day.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Loch Ness is my favorite. I guess maybe the whole dinosaur thing growing up. When I was a little kid, I used to check out this book from the library all the time on cryptids, and it had Bigfoot and, Nessie and all that stuff in it. And I mean, I must have been in the fourth grade, and I would check that book out every week. And so, we'll remember this, I'm sure as well. When I was a kid, there used to be a little note card that you would take out of the book, and you actually would have to sign off your name and turn in the note card, and that's how they kept track of who checked out the book. It was a little note card.
Yep.
You would have to put your name and your initials and the date. And if you had your name on there more than once, it means you checked it out more than once. And so there was this one cryptid book. I completely killed it because if you looked at that card, I signed out for it over and over and over. And, so I always found them fascinating. I mean, the UFOs, the aliens, and your theory about Bigfoot's being ghosts, it's really interesting. I've never really heard one. I mean, you say that's on your show, and that's why I think people need to check out your show. And very soon when we get to the end, I want you to tell everybody how to find you. But it's just really cool to hear a different take on Bigfoot. than what people don't normally hear. So, you know, so those are the stories of the week. This is kind of like what the show is going to be completely about. You know, people are going to be coming on. We're going to be talking about cool stories. We're going to be hearing theories that we've never heard before. For me, Will was a no-brainer as the first guest. Just that his like,
Thank you.
yeah. With all your years of experience, Will, I mean sincerely, and just that you're a cool guy, and you know that's the kind of people I want people to hear from is cool people. Well, you know, just a couple of questions, guy. I want to turn the focus back on you. Um, so, what would you say? And this is kind of like more of a fun question. This is not as serious, but it can be serious if you want it to be. What's one thing about Will Emmerich that you think people don't know that you like them to know about?
Mm, now, hold on. Let me show you.
Uh oh, here it comes.
When I talk about being the bishop of the Church of the Rock and Roll, it's true.
Nice.
I am a bishop. I am an ordained minister.
That is really cool.
People, and this isn't one of the mail order ones, and a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, I didn't find the whole Church of Rock and Roll thing is not real. It's not a real church. But the whole that I'm a bishop and that I'm a believer and that I can actually preach is true, and do weddings and stuff like that. And I find that kind of funny that people think that's the part I'm joking about when it's not.
Hmm.
But on a paranormal sense, go ahead.
No, I mean I think that's interesting, and you know it kind of makes me. I'm Catholic, and you know when I first started ghost hunting, I had to figure out a way of how my faith fits into my research, and if there was a way that I could be comfortable with having a certain faith and a certain amount of research, and whether or not what I was looking into in a certain way was even sacrilegious to the kind of stuff I got brought up on, you know. Uh, and so, you know, I think it's very interesting that you briefly touched on this earlier. I think it's fascinating that you're a bishop and that you do think that there's space for both, because I've come to accept that. And you know, from what I'm getting from you is that some people are surprised that there are people out there like yourself who finds that you can balance both things. That's not all or nothing.
Well, I haven't studied the Bible, and just that book for everyone listening. I'm not making a statement on any other faith other than just Christianity, and having studied it, I don't understand where people come in with the concept of being able to say how God did things. And you know, the hardcore fundamental Christians want to say that the Big Bang wasn't possible. Really, the Bible doesn't legitimately tell us how he did it. It just tells us how long it took him to do it. And so why isn't it that he made a big bang and that's how things started, and bang, you know, and stuff like that. But to me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, if you really study the Bible for itself and don't just take anyone else's opinion about it, you'll realize that studying the paranormal is no way against what's going on there. It's how you take into belief of what you're studying. It's if you take the paranormal and replace God with it or something like that. That's where things go wrong. When you start taking it into this is your belief system type thing and not you trying to unravel a mystery. For instance, just Ouija boards. Let me throw this out there. Everyone, Ouija boards are bad. Well, what's the difference between a Ouija board and an EVP? We're both communicating. We're using it to communicate with the spirit. So where exactly is the difference? Where's the difference between a Ouija board, an EVP, and a ghost box session? You know, they're no different. So how is it that one's bad and the other ones are not?
Right.
That's because people are just wanting to fit their own little opinion into it and not really take it for what it is. What the Bible actually tells us is that we're not supposed to use the spirits for any of divination. And technically, we're not supposed to communicate with the spirits to find out about the future or anything like that. But it doesn't say that we're not supposed to, or that we can't communicate with them. Because technically speaking, when you're praying, you're communicating with spirit,
No,
the Holy Spirit.
and that's been what I've been saying about the Ouija board as well. I have the exact same viewpoint. I mean in the way, just to kind of also touch on something else you just said at the very end. But I want just on the Ouija board part, I agree 100%. I see it as a ghost hunting tool, 100%. It's no difference, like you said, than any other ghost hunting tool. It's open to interpretation. The results are open to interpretation. The results can be based on what people expect to happen. You can want a ghost hunt. You want to hear an EVP when there's not there. You may want to have a EMF reading, mean there's a ghost when there's a logical explanation, and you may want the Ouija board to spell something out, even subconsciously, and make that happen. At the same time, do all ghost hunting tools have a probability of sometimes having really evidence that fits into kind of context of something that might make sense as evidence? Yes. And then as far as, is there a chance of contacting something evil? Well, there's a chance of contacting something quote unquote evil with no matter what you do, with whichever type of ghost hunting tool, not just a Ouija board. Anytime you contact something, you have the same odds of something good or something bad happening. You have the odds of being in a car accident. If you want to dwell on the fact that car driving can lead to car accidents, it doesn't mean you don't drive. So I mean, people want to dwell that Ouija boards can be bad. And then the what you mentioned about the scriptures. I mean, I love what everything you said, and there's even a thing about the scriptures, about the context of it, that could have gone back to our conversation earlier. Even the things that are described in the scriptures. I mean, if people, in the terms of this of what they thought at the time, thought that an alien or a UFO was a god or a ball of fire or something, or a laser was a.
Well, you have
it's just
in
the way
the Old Testament.
It's just the way they could explain it in a way that made sense to them, but they could be describing something that today we would think as paranormal.
Yeah, well, in the Old Testament, you had a prophet that was taken up in a wheel of fire, and then that there was a lot of sound and fury when it came. Well, that sounds like a rocket motor to me. Then Jesus being levitated. Okay, that either makes him a spirit, or that makes it that a tracking beam took him up, like in like what happened with the guy in. Oh, now I forgot, and I met him too. But the guy who wrote that book about being abducted by aliens, and that they were in the woods in Washington or somewhere in Arizona, and they saw him get picked up by a UFO. I'll remember at some point. I'm having a brain fart. Not enough coffee.
No problem.
But I mean, again, that it could be that, and so there's a lot of things going on in there, which. It could be paranormal, but technically speaking, everything when it comes to dealing with God or with Jesus, the Holy Spirit, is paranormal. They're beings from heaven. They're beings non-terrestrial from another planet or another space. And so technically speaking, it is paranormal.
Right.
And it is extraterrestrial. So that's the one thing that I keep bringing up to people, is like the fact that you're studying scripture, studying the Bible, you're studying the paranormal. Travis Walton, yes, that's his name.
Cool.
That's the guy's name. And so, I mean, you get into all these different theories that a lot of people want to put in neat boxes or put into little cubby holes. And the fact of the matter is, when it comes to faith and studying the paranormal, they're not in these little boxes. They're not in these little cubby holes. The two things do exist, and you technically are investigating the paranormal when you're researching scripture and the Bible. Again, there's other great, huge possible paranormal stories when you get into the Gnostic Gospels and to the books that were removed from the Bible. A lot of people don't even know that there was books removed from the Bible, and they bring in even more interesting questions than the ones that people want to think about. Like everyone wants to bring up the Gospel of Judas or Mary Magdalene being Jesus' wife. Those are there, but there's 100 more, even more intriguing stories, but people don't want to bring them up because, the paranormal is taboo, or the paranormal is something that is not, they don't want to bring it into their religious beliefs, but they're there. And when you want to study the paranormal and you want to do it on a heavy basis or on a very, very deep basis, that's something that you have to bring. You're going to have to bring it in there, because you have to find a way of being impartial or being in the middle. But then for your own being or for your own sanity, you have to bounce it off a stick, something to judge it by. I always use my faith to bounce it off of, because it brings things more clear, especially if you're balanced. I started as a Catholic, and I became non-denominational, my own thing, later on, just because too many people were putting rules on me or trying to put rules on me that when I started studying it on my own, I found out they were not there. These rules weren't actually biblical, to use that terminology. And it started really coming a lot more clear when I started studying these things, and then also studying the paranormal, that the rules are even less flexible than we think they are. But they are not the rules that we were taught they were.
Right.
Big example, right now in the chat, people were talking about Ouija boards and ITC. It's not communicating with the spirits or opening these portals that are the bad things. And technically speaking, it's not hard for you to figure out which is a good intention spirit or which is a bad intention spirit. That's actually very easy to figure out. But the problem is that if you're not wanting to use any basis to start measuring these spirits with, now you're going to be using this flexible interpretation. It's like, you don't want to be one of these people that come into an investigation and everything's a demon, because it's not.
Right.
And you can get yourself into a lot of trouble doing that, because you can start actually inviting a real one that wasn't there to start out with, to show up. But at the same time, you don't want to sit here and be in an investigation and see the spirit of a little girl and say, oh, it's a little girl, because let me tell you, 9 out of 10, that one's the demon. And the big reason is if you go into almost every spiritual text, the creator, I'm going to use the term the creator instead of God, it says that the little children belong to him, that they're innocent, and then when they die, he immediately takes them. So if that's the case, what's the spirit? Why is the little child there? No, there can't be a little child there. It doesn't mean that there won't be a little child there, or that there's a reason.
Right.
But if you have a creator that in many, many different books tells you that when a child dies, it's coming to me, that immediately makes me go, there's something wrong here. That I'm picking up a little girl, and this isn't a good thing. In my book, Souls of Norcross, I talk about a spirit named Annalisa that followed me around for a long time. And, to this day, there's a lot of people who's like, well, no, it was a little girl who was interested in you, and you spoke to it and wanted to keep communicating with you. To this day, I keep saying, when I had stopped, when communication stopped with that spirit, my life got better. And that right there is something that always makes me go and look at that whole scenario and go, that was the problem. That spirit was the problem. I never made out who the spirit was. The funny thing is that we found the story of a little girl that died the exact same way that spirit said she died, named Annalisa, which the spirit said was her name. And it's pictured in my book. But there's a lot of doubt cast on me, and a lot of doubt in me to this day that is the spirit that we spoke to.
This is
Again, we had people
the
who
Ghost of
sit.
Norcross, the book that this is
Yeah,
all in.
yeah. A part of that story is in Soul of Norcross. The story didn't
So
really
sorry about that.
end when I published the book. That more things happened since after I published the book,
I'm
and then I picked
actually
up a voice of a little girl
I
in Old
just put
South
it up for
Pittsburgh.
the viewers for people to see.
Okay.
So they're actually looking at the cover and the link on the
Cover.
website. So that's a good way just to kind of let
Annalise is
people
actually
know.
on the
Will
cover.
just to start wrapping up because we're at about an hour. Uh, I'll just put
Oh, okay.
the book up, but why don't you tell people where the website's at and where people can find you and people can check the book out. Obviously, I'm showing it right now. So if people want to read more about it, they can. But tell people how they can find you and where your stuff is at.
Okay. Well, first things to finish them off on the Annalisa story. The little girl with the white hat on her head is Annalisa in that cover.
Oh wow, okay.
That's the actual girl that supposedly the spirit was. Now, you can find this book at on my website, which is willimareach.com, which is linked on the video page too. It's my name, and it's Will Imerich. And you can go to the store area and pick a copy of the book. You can also find it on Amazon. Just type in Souls of Norcross. And I think a hardcover is available right now that the publisher stopped the paperbacks for a while. But you can get that there. And if you go to willimerich.com, you can actually find my archives for my show, and you can listen to other episodes of my show as well. And on Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern, which I think is 6 your time, Alejandro,
Yes.
you can click on Listen Live and actually listen to my show broadcasting live. It's not just paranormal talk. There's rock music, and we talk about movies and stuff like that. Everything that I like. And soon everything that Christina likes too.
Cool.
And if you go to the Imerich show, you can actually go to the on demand and to the archives and find out and listen to other episodes. And also buy stuff. I got coffee mugs too for all of us coffee drinkers. If you go to Imerich shops, there's coffee and apparel.
Nice. Nice. No, there's a little bit
One of
there's
these.
something for everybody.
Get one of these with the new logo.
I like that logo, by the way. I've liked that logo since you started the show, dude.
But the new one or the old?
The one with the skull.
The new logo, if you scroll to the top of the page. Yeah, the skull logo.
Yeah.
That's the old one.
Right, and that's the logo you had when I went on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And the new one's just the fire and
the new one is the microsome fire.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I actually can put that back on again. So I really recommend people, go to his website, use it to listen to the show, listen to past archives. As you can tell, Will has a lot of information about a lot of different topics, paranormal and not paranormal. I love the fact that you were able to bring some new insights to the conversation tonight. I picked these 3 stories on paranormal news because I thought they were strange, bizarre, a little bit funny, the kind of stories I want to share in the future. And you coming in not really knowing what the stories were going to be. I mean, you're amazing that you had all this background on all of these. So I sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I've been doing this for a long time, and for me, it's just the paranormal. There's not much of it that I won't talk about or that I don't research. Granted, I do research some more than others. That's why I got these little gray whiskers going, and ghosts and the paranormal and poltergeists and negative investigations are actually something that has been that I've been researching. I think now, pretty much since a little bit after I met you, I've been stuck with a lot more negative cases that I've been researching, and that's something that I'm trying to pull back on. But
yeah, well, just
so
be
far they
careful,
still show
brother,
up to
man.
me.
Just be careful.
Yeah.
It's intense, and if you know what you're doing, and that's said more of a point of view. Like everybody has their own idea of what they're comfortable with. I don't think there's one right or wrong way to deal with anything, but just be careful. You know yourself better than anybody else, so just follow your gut when it comes to
Yep.
dealing with those investigations. And if you feel like you need to pull
Well,
back, pull back. But hey, man, you talked about a lot of different topics. I think that without a doubt, we need to bring it back because I think there's things that we talked about that we didn't really
I'll always
get.
come back.
Yeah, no, I would love for
Well,
you
soon
to.
you gotta come on to the 3 hours of my show, man.
Oh man, I can't hang with you 3 hours. I'm already tired after one. But yeah, bring me on. I'd love to come back on. And so, for those who are watching, once again, thanks for watching the show. For those of you who catch this on a podcast or on YouTube after it's broadcast live, you can still leave comments about anything we talked about today in the comment section below. I'll still respond to comments once this video is archived. So if you have anything that we didn't cover or questions, feedback, leave it in the comment section. Also, if you're new,
There's
please.
actually. Oh,
And,
no,
and
I was gonna say if I can get a couple seconds, there's something I do want to say a shout out to someone
okay, go
who I
ahead.
know is listening, and I need to congratulate them. My buddies Eric Von Hessler and Tim. I don't know if he will let me. Okay, what the heck? I'll say Tim Andrews. I want to congratulate them. They have now got a full-time gig on the United States' largest news AM radio network, and they're going to be on WSB in Atlanta. And they're going to have a show starting from, I think it's 10 a.m. to 12 noon every day after the new year. And I got to tell them, I got to say, I'm proud of these guys. I know they're listening because they love weird stuff like this, but they don't talk about it on their. These guys are great guys. They were like me. They came from the shock jock world, and now they're doing news. And I don't know if any of you guys ever listened to Neil Bortz back in the day, but that's actually whose spot they're taking. And it's kind of cool. It is very, very cool. Proud of them, guys.
Well, nice.
So thank you for letting me say it.
Yeah, man, that's a big thing. Get your shout outs out on there, and congratulations. I give my congratulations as well. That sounds like an awesome thing. Just if so, just to wrap up, if you want to watch more of these live shows on Tuesdays or any other videos that I put out, the best way is make sure you get notifications to hit subscribe on YouTube. Also, hit that little bell right next to that subscribe button and click that you want YouTube to give you notifications. That's the only way to guarantee you will get notified when these videos are on, especially when they're live, because the chat room is so much fun. There's so many people in the chat room tonight making some jokes. Angela, Justin, Andrew, Hampton Team Paranormal. We had Too Much Advil with the jokes. We had Cody. We had Carrie, who's been around for a while. Carrie and I need to talk. Carrie and I, you and I need to talk about your paranormal case. Paranormal Hunters wanted a shout out. Well, there you go. Robert James Whittington, I'm sorry. He's been a great fan of the show. He makes a lot of comments. We had somebody drop a comment about some conspiracy theory that we didn't get to involve China and Donald Trump. That's a topic for another show, but that was Travis B. So thanks for Travis being in the live chat room as well. So you want to catch the show when it's live. Coming up, let me show you a quick clip as I'm just going off the air. I'm going to close with you seeing a quick clip of an investigation that will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. Yes, there is an investigation that I've been holding out of involved.
Shame on you.
Oh, I know. I've been wanting to get this show off off the ground, but this is a really cool investigation that we did in Rio Grande City. So those of you who want to make sure that I'm still doing investigations and not just live interviews, we have this episode coming out still in December, and then we'll switch gears and go into January 2017 with a lot of investigations. Hopefully this show continues and things of that nature. So again, thanks for everybody tuning in tonight. Appreciate all of y'all's time. Like I say every time I end this show, be careful, be safe, take care of each other, love everybody you love, appreciate what you got, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.